Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. I am Ayuba.
Good morning and welcome as well. I am Dashan Husseina Usman, and it is, I don't know, how is it that it is December already?
Yes, it is. Today is 1st December. An exciting day, really. Yes. It marks the beginning of the end.
Happy New Month to you, by the way.
Happy New Month.
Happy New Month,
Husseina. I mean, it's a very exciting moment for us to have made it this far.
Yeah, definitely.
The year 2020, 2021 has been full of quite a lot of things.
But isn't it
COVID-19 on one hand, and then impacting on the economy, you have inflation and
everything. All of that. But isn't it scary, to know that 2022 is just around the corner?
Yeah, well, not scary, but I mean, we hope that it's going to be all good. It's going to be all better than what we've had in 2020 and 2021. We are seeing new variant of COVID-19. I mean, the Omicron.
It's what even scares me the most. We hope it doesn't, end up being something to worry about in 2022 and in Nigeria.
Now, well, today we will be joined by NAOB, Country Director, Action Aid, to discuss gender-based violence.
Damilola Idris, Project Officer, Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative, RAPA, will also be joining us to discuss HIV/AIDS and gender-based violence. Now, do not forget that the dailies will also be coming up on the Daybreak.
But before that, let's take a look at the events of the 5th of October in world history. I beg your pardon? 1st December.
1st December.
In world history. Please take a look. Right, you're welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Today in history, World AIDS Day is today the 1st day of December. Well, it's a day that will reflect back and create awareness about, this discrimination that people living with HIV used to face.
Definitely.
Before, I believe that we've made quite a lot of progress.
Yeah.
Also, in 1955, Rosa Parks is arrested for refusing to move to the back of a bus and give her seat to a white passenger in Montgomery, and that's in Alabama. Well, very, very interesting facts. Racism, in America.
Segregation.
I mean, you recall that in those days there used to be even toilets
for colored people,
even in
and
the
then
bus,
for whites.
you don't sit with whites.
Even walk neighborhoods, everything, going to restaurants and all that. There was a lot of discrimination and segregation back then.
And when you look at that, you would see that I think that the world has moved since we had even a president, a black president in America.
And a black female vice president.
At the moment. That's a very interesting historical fact there. The one that is very interesting to me is the one on World AIDS Day.
Yeah. Yes, well, World AIDS Day, brings together people from around the world to raise awareness about HIV/AIDS and demonstrate international solidarity in the face of the pandemic. Now, the day is an opportunity for public and private partners to spread awareness about the status of the pandemic, because it is a pandemic, and encourage progress in HIV/AIDS prevention, treatment and care around the world. World AIDS Day is actually important because it reminds the public and governments that HIV has not gone away at all. Even though, you know, COVID-19 seems to have suppressed it, it is still here, and there is still a vital need to raise money, increase awareness, fight prejudice, and also improve education.
Now, it has become one of the most widely recognized international health days and a key opportunity to raise awareness, commemorate those who have died, and celebrate victories such as increased access to treatment and prevention services. Well, who is calling on, WHO is calling on global leaders and citizens to rally to confront the inequalities that drive AIDS and to reach people who are currently not receiving essential HIV services. The theme for this year is End Inequalities, End AIDS, and End Pandemics. That's the theme for the year. Very, very interesting one.
Yes, indeed. All right, for now, let's take a look at the dailies today.
When a situation where you find that a look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And now to look at the dailies on Daybreak, we have in the studio Sunday Michael, Deputy Business Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, to review some of the stories that made the headlines this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My pleasure to be here again.
Excited to have you. All right, now let's begin with Daily Trust newspaper. Like we told you, the story there you would see on page 3, World AIDS Day, Nigeria's HIV response still donor funded. Well, to say that our own government needs to take a role and take responsibility there. 257 projects worth 20 billion naira duplicated in 2021 budget, and that's according to ICPC, one of Nigeria's regulatory bodies, against corruption. The lead story says 20 die as boat capsizes with 47 pupils, others in Kano. With the rider, poor visibility hampers rescue operation. That's a very interesting story to look at. You'd see also the pictorial there, National Youth Service Corps members performing tug of war during the swearing-in ceremony of the 2021 Batch C Stream 2 at the orientation course at Kubwa in Abuja yesterday. Banishment. Apologize to Sanusi, court tells Kano government. Recall that yesterday there was a judgment by a court that seemed to exonerate the
former emir.
Well, the former emir. That's the only way to call it.
Yes, the former emir.
And yesterday the court is asking the Kano State government to apologize for the manner in which he was banished, from Kano State, taken to a secluded location, confined to a location, according to them, is based on the tradition.
And it's a violation of his human rights. That's what the court is saying.
Yes. All right. Now, Nigerians to apply for Forex online as CBN deploys eForm A. That's on page 20. You'll also find local content. FG saves 3.5 trillion naira on oil and gas projects, and that's on page 18 of the Daily Trust newspaper. At the bottom, you'll find also no killing at Lekki Tollgate. Lagos counters NSAS panel. With the riders, government accept 11 recommendations. Campaigners reject Sanwo-Olu's overtures. Now, yesterday, while the state governor was disclosing the position of this government based on the white paper that was, released, put together by the committee, he was also extending an invitation to the frontliners of the NSAS to come and walk with him. He called it a peace walk in Lagos State. And then there's a whole lot of detail about this story. You wouldn't want to miss this. You can grab a copy. The details is on page 5 of the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the Nation newspaper, and we'll start with the lead here that says white paper, still talking about the Lekki toll gate, no arbitrary killings at Lekki toll gate. And we have a writer here that says Lagos accepts 11 #NSAS panel recommendations to take 14 requests to federal government. All right, we also have a story here, one that we should be worried about or not, on page 28, that says AFDB cautions federal government against tax increase. We also have another one on page 28 still that says INEC alleges plot by politicians to undermine BVA's application. All right, ICPC 257 duplicated projects found in 2021 budgets. Well, and a writer here that says Buhari orders agency to sanction corrupt civil services. And we'll take the final story on the front page of Nation newspaper here. And it says Abiodun presents 350.74 billion naira budget of restoration.
All right, now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper this morning. The first story there at the very top is the story about mushroom growers seeking inclusion in CBN program, the $45.3 billion market, and the details of that is on page 23. Then you also see petrol may sell above 340 per litre. Marketers plan imports amidst forex crisis. You'd also find retirees increase by 27%, collect 890 billion naira from government, private sector. Also, another story there says illegal recruitment. Buhari vows sanctions. ICPC indicts Ngige ministry and others. And that's on page 13. The lead story on the Punch newspaper. Compulsory vaccination. Workers demand March. A deadline. Throng centers. FG insists on December 1. So yes, today is the deadline for civil servants, workers, federal government workers who are yet to be vaccinated to get vaccinated. Otherwise, they would have no access to their various offices. Also, the writers there will say, our letter for March extension will get to government today, says ASCSN. You would also see, we are not contemplating any extension after December 1 deadline. PSC. Security operatives bar workers without face mask from government buildings. You'll also find the picture there showing you NDLEA destruction of 50 billion naira drugs, arrest 10,355 traffickers. There showing you that took place yesterday. You'd also see gunmen in police uniform invade Oshun Microfinance Bank, loot ATM. Also another story, Ogun plans 360 billion naira IGR. Abiodun proposes 351 billion naira budget, and also 300,000 children newly infected with HIV in 2020. That's according to the UNICEF. That's quite an alarming number. At the very bottom, Lagos rejects panel's casualty figure, says one killed in Lekki. Akeredolu orders Ondo nightclubs closure, alleges Zamfara boys peddling drugs, hawking sex. Also, you'd find 40 festival-bound passengers drown as overloaded canoe boat capsizes. That's on page 6 of the Punch newspaper. Okay. Very tragic.
Yes, all right. We'll take the final newspaper, and which is the Guardian newspaper. And we have, today being World AIDS Day, 1.9 million Nigerians living with HIV. Infection rates not decreasing fast enough. And you'll find that story on page 2. Buhari talks tough on grant as ICPC uncovers 200 20.138 billion naira duplicated projects. We also have Lekki Tollgate, which seems to, you know, be on the front page of every newspaper today. No deaths at Lekki Tollgate, says Lagos government in #NSAS white paper. And then we have EFCC arraigns Ondo Speaker, others over alleged fraud, and you find that story on page 6. Right at the bottom, you'll find a story that says how I championed the scuttling of Obasanjo's elongation plan, and that's by Senator Ben Obi. And then we'll move on to the lead story on the Guardian newspaper here that says subsidy removal won't spike inflation, says World Bank. Well, there's been a lot of reports saying that once the subsidy is removed, fuel would shoot up to 300 and something naira, and Nigerians seem to be afraid of that fact. But then we have some writers here that says data contradicts Chowdhury's argument. Nigeria tops table of all wrong data. Social scheme doesn't benefit majority of poor people, and economy cannot grow faster with business as usual management approach. And these are the stories we'll take on front page of the Guardian newspaper.
Well, very, very interesting stories. Now, let's get perspectives on these headlines. We earlier told you that we have Sunday Michael in the studio, Deputy Business Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, to give perspectives to this. Now, finally, the white paper is out. This conversation about the NSAS protest at the Lekki Tollgate, well, I would say has finally been put to rest, isn't it? Again, we are seeing also invitations by the governor to, for a peace walk and all of that. What are your thoughts, around this story?
A couple of things. First of all, I think it is important to commend the Lagos State government. They've been very careful in managing expectations around these reports. I know a couple of days back there were conversations around whether or not we will even see a white paper, right? Today, they've gone beyond that. They've been bold enough to issue the white paper. It may not be everything we expected, but the fact that they could accept some recommendations, modify some recommendations, we have moved away from where we used to be. I mean, they went from setting up a judicial panel, funding it, and then taking the recommendations from them and accepting some, saying some others, as we rightly pointed out before today, do not exactly fall within their purview in terms of implementations, and they would therefore forward those recommendations to the federal government. I think the major bone of contention now it's it's around the casualty figures. What I don't know is, we know there were a lot of testimonies about how the committees arrived at these numbers. What the government did not tell us in its briefing is what other investigation did it do to disprove these numbers. So hard facts are not easy to take in, but if you're also disproving it, we want to understand how, because the committee made some chilling revelations, of how agencies of government showed up after the shooting to do a mop-up and a clean-up of the scene. Because if the scenes were not tampered with, perhaps the forensic investigations would have been able to pick up blood samples and tissues and compare to the so-called 99 dead bodies that were found in the morgue that all seem to have been tagged SARS. That's one fact that has not been disproved. The second thing is, the testimonies about the bodies came from the government pathologist. It wasn't from an outsider. It is difficult to disprove that if he has the authentic numbers of all the deaths and the circumstances around the deaths, and we saw 99 dead bodies with bullet wounds, and the state pathologist, who is the chief authority with regards to that, had confirmed this. That is also a fact that you can just throw out of the window, right? And they had bullet wounds. So if they were not coming from the Lekki Tollgate, at least some kind of investigation should tell us where they are coming from. That's another thing that was not attended to. Another important information was, they said they listed 3 because the government released money to carry out, what do you call it now, the forensic test on only 3 bodies. That if they had gotten money to do on the 99, they would have been able to, with the people who complained about missing relatives, they would have been able to compare DNAs and all of that to show whether there is really a relationship. And they gave instances that when the building collapse happened at the synagogue church, that those were the processes that they carried out to ensure that there was no mass burial. They were able to marry every dead body to relatives and claims, and therefore allow people to recoup their cadavers and give them the kind of burials. So, gray areas on both sides, but what's important is that we have made some progress. The governor is suing for peace. I hope the leaders of this campaign also see this olive branch and accept it, not because it meets all of their aspirations, but because it's also the way forward.
Okay, so how would you say the government what would you say is the government's response to a peaceful protest or protest in general in Nigeria?
It's been abysmal. The records are in the open. We seem to react very violently, unfortunately, as a state, to peaceful protests. It's funny, I can count several on the back of my hand. Remember the Two-Face proposed protest about the state of the economy at the time, and it was truly biting. Whether it is not a universal truth, the fact that he feels the need to protest about what he doesn't feel comfortable about, and people were willing to join. I mean, the state should not have prevented it. The Commissioner of Police in Lagos, they openly came out and said that cannot hold because of security implications. Well, you would not take those kind of warnings for granted, but the Constitution also provides that you must provide protections for peaceful protests. We know how many times the Shiite people had attempted to protest in Abuja, and every time there is a casualty, whether on the part of the protesters or sometimes, in fact, because of the violent reactions, even the police have had to bear some. We know 1 or 2 police officers that have lost their life.
Even innocent Nigerians.
You know, what happened to the Bring Back Nigeria's protest? We are all public witnesses to how senior citizens of this country were brutalized because they demanded to speak with the president. Is that a crime? You know. So we have seen several kinds of protests. The way protesters are quailed, you know, rather than invite people to have a conversation, you know, rather than being seen to be attending to the genuine issues of concern, we either find a way to forcefully disperse them, you know, using water canisters and all of that, or using all manner of force. We know how Charlie Boy was roughly manhandled on the street. You know, so the examples abound. It has made it difficult for people to want to participate in peaceful protests. But that is also dangerous for democracy. Today, you think they don't have justifiable reasons to come out. But it was the same protest that secured the peace, the progress, the freedom that these same leaders have ridden on, you know, to become what they are today. So we cannot allow any kind of government whatsoever to you know, perpetually find a way to stop what is a fundamental, a universally recognized human right, because that is the only way people can express what they feel about a government pronouncement, policy, or action, or even demand some kind of change where they need be.
All right. Now, would you say that, well, with this report, with this outcome, everything has been put to rest? What do we expect to see going forward?
I think it will be it will be difficult to say everything had been put to rest. Right from yesterday, even prior to the release of the report yesterday evening, there were already reactions. People are not satisfied with the outcome of the government. People are not comfortable with the government discrediting a judicial panel that is set up by itself. And I think the government also anticipates that this will not sit completely well with people. So the whole peace walk is an attempt to quell those possible tensions. So it has not put everything to rest, quite frankly. And all those gray areas then needs to be taken up. seriously. The government has said they will set up a helpline, a toll-free helpline to report issues of violence and all of that. We hope that progresses quickly, and it is not just about people calling to report that something had happened. It's about people seeing that real actions are taken about these incidences. So the government needs to do more other than just coming out and saying, we will take this, we will not take this, we will recommend this forward, and we will modify this. Real conversations, real engagements needs to now start happening between the leaders and the led. The NSAS protest is a wake-up call that people would not continue to sit down and swallow everything hook, line, and sinker. The day they get to the wall, they will bounce.
Okay, so one of the reasons that the Lagos State government is banking on as why they will not accept the casualty figure and all of that is that the report did not spell out the way and manner or how those persons that were said to have been killed died, and that it's more speculative and it's more on assumptions. So, and if you look at some of the facts that have been established by the panel, like the one we mentioned about government authorities or some government officials coming to the scene, tampering with the space where investigation was supposed to have been conducted, is that an indictment, or I would say is that a dent, I would say, on that, the process? Is that a justifiable ground, looking at the antecedents of what happened after, the supposed killing?
It will be difficult for the government to justify that. They did a number of things on their part that tampered with even the outcomes, if you like. So why was it difficult to provide the cameras at the toll gate? And the agency in charge of those cameras alluded to the fact that the cameras were safe and they were entered. So why was it difficult for us to see footages? That is unexplained. Why was it difficult for the army to allow the panel to access the military morgue? They couldn't provide explanations. Even the camera that they saw at the venue, why was it difficult to release the content of the camera? Who ordered the cleanup of that space after the shooting? What did you clean up? Those bullet canisters. What about the physicians that were purportedly said to have showed up in hospital, removing the bullet, the bullets in the bodies of those cadavers? Because if you bring out the bullet, they have serial numbers, they have model. We can trace them to the manufacturers, and we can trace them from the model to who they were sold to. Why were they removed? These are all questions that they couldn't provide answers for. Like I said, then you will even want to question who studied the report of the panel and came up with this recommendation. We want to know the faces behind the committee that brought out this white paper, because the messenger is as important as the message. Was it as independent enough? Because if you are working to an answer and you want to paint the government good, obviously the result of your effort will be known even before you set out, depending on the quality of people. So if there were doubts, if you had cast aspersions about the positions of the decision, how neutral was the government committee that reviewed the outcome of the panel report? These are all questions you and I cannot provide ready answers to. So until we understand those things, then we can begin to draw some kind of conclusions.
All right, so let's move on to another story. What are your thoughts on the court ruling on the banishment of the former Emir Sanusi?
It's a fairly tricky one. I think suffice it to say that the banishment has never been a judicial matter. It has always been cultural. There had never been any law in Nigeria as we know today, even from prehistoric era, that permits banishment of any form. If you recall, the court had made pronouncements, not even with the case of Sanusi or an emir, but even with where we have the caste system, in the East, where people are regarded as outcasts, and therefore, when things happen, you banish them. So, you know, the court has always kicked against that. Fundamentally, it's against our rights as a people, you know, because we have the freedom of movement, the freedom to settle wherever you chooses. And so it's not within anybody's purview to then decide whether or not you should stay in a place or not. But culturally, traditionally, historically, when emirs are dethroned, they are banished. And the historical or cultural explanation is that although you can be dethroned, but you cannot be dekinged. You know, technically, even though you are not a throne, you are not on the throne, you know, you have a followership, there is a court followership that continues to exist, and that will continue to show allegiance to you for the rest of your life. And because they cannot risk allegiance to two different authorities, the idea of banishment is to give space for whoever is then in charge to hold sway fully. You know, so that is what informed even the banishment of Sanusi's father, first to Azare, and then when somebody wanted to help him, as history told us, they brought him closer to Wudil, but definitely not into Kano. And we have seen Emir of Gwandu to Kaduna. We have seen the former Sultan of Sokoto also to Kaduna. We know the cases of others that went to Lokoja. And all that. So that has been historical antecedent. And so when Sanusi first challenged it, he didn't even question the historical relevance of it. He was in fact saying he needed the freedom, because those days when they banish you, it becomes like a house arrest sort of. You really don't have the freedom to move around, but you can go to the mosques, to your house, a few places, but you can't really move around freely. So the initial relief he sought was to allow him the freedom to move around, because he was banished to Aware, you know. And when that relief was granted, it allowed him. So this pronouncement, if you like, is retrospective in a way, because Emir Sanusi, or the 13th Emir as he likes to be called, or former Emir of Kadu, has been moving around quite a lot, as we have come to know even from media report. And in fact, I think he's somewhere in London now taking a PhD program. So that movement has been happening. But I think it's important that this pronouncement is happening. What we don't know is that in the face of this pronouncement, how the people or the emirate will react should Sanusi then decide to visit Kano. You know, because that will change completely change the historical narrative about banishment and all of that. We look forward to how that plays out.
All right. Now, other stories are here that sad ones, really. The lead story talks about 20 die as boat capsizes with 47 pupils, others in Kano. This is not the first of it. Again, we ask the questions. Are we learning from these tragedies?
We clearly are not learning. As you would know, I spent about 6.5 years in Lagos, and I had on a number of times the opportunity to use the waterways. And in fact, I did a story some 1 or 2 years ago to the effect that our waterways are the most unregulated. The government doesn't even see it as anything happening, whether as a potential for full-scale transportation or anything. So it's an unregulated space. And to that effect, people who can afford it go to some construction house, put whatever they can put together and put a propeller on it, and they're on the water body, transporting people, as a matter of fact. So if you were doing it for just yourself, then maybe people would say, well, if you trust it to carry you and anything happens, that's you. But to think that they would then deploy these kind of things for mass transportation, and nobody is looking at the quality of what they had built in the name of a boat. Nobody is looking at safety measures as to what is even the capacity of this boat, what should it carry as a standard weight, load factor. Nobody is looking at safety measures in terms of are your passengers putting on life vests. Nobody is regulating what time of the day is safe. to use this water. They are not getting any kind of meteorological feeds.
Yes. In fact, from this story, from what we know, the incident actually happened in the night.
Yeah. So you can imagine, you probably don't have any kind of lighting. You know, it could have been a collision. It could have been some obstructions that you probably run into. Today, we are not completely abreast with what the facts are. We just know it's a capside. It could have even been a fault that would have shown signs of little leaks and all of that, but could not be detected because of the time of the day, and then you jump on it, or even somebody damning all the consequences, because nobody can stop him to say, whatever this fault is, we can manage it to the other side and then find a way to fix. So it's a completely unregulated space, whether by the federal agencies or even the state agencies. So it's an all-comers affair, and therefore we continue to see incidences like this. And like you rightly mentioned from the beginning, are we learning anything from this example? And the answer clearly is no.
But we also have communities that can only be accessed, you know, by water. So what happens to these communities?
The truth is, people would always find ways to exist, whether you choose to pay attention to what they are doing or not. When we say pay attention in this case, it's about government living up to its responsibility. Wherever these persons are, there is some form of government present in their location, whether it's the local government or even the state government, whatever it is. The thing is, we cannot pretend that nothing is happening on our water surface, you know, because like you rightly mentioned, quite a number of our communities live in those kind of circumstances, and it is our responsibility to ensure as a people, as a community, that they travel safely through and for their destination, and that whatever they do on the water bodies is done in compliance with international best practice.
All right. Well, I would like for us to take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll be taking a look at some more stories on the papers. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Sorry about that, sir. I think I left here around 10:30 as well.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You are still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. Now, we've been looking at the stories that made the headlines with Sunday Michael, Deputy Business Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, getting perspectives on the lead stories. Let's take a look at this one here about the budget, 2021 budget. The ICPC is raising an alarm that 257 projects worth 20 billion naira were duplicated in 2021 budget. That's an alarming number there. What exactly is going on with our budgets?
I wish I can tell you. First of all, alarming. But I tell you, from the number of years I've had to deal with budget reporting, that this is just the tip of the iceberg. And it will make sense if you begin to cascade backwards. If you have been able to find this much in 2011, if those people who did it were there in 2010, you can be sure that there was something in it. If they were there in 2009, you can be sure that those pardons happened. Two things that had come to the fore with this is the fact that, first of all, we used to hear about budget pardon in the National Assembly. Now, the ICPC is establishing that it is even more with the MDAs than it is at the National Assembly. It doesn't exonerate what the National Assembly does with pardon or no pardon. Secondly, personally, I'm wondering, why is this coming 1 year after? What would have happened if, say, the federal government haven't compiled or put together what its compendium? Why not send it to the ICPCs or the EFCCs to have done this forensic checks, interrogation or analysis, and return to the president to be guided, rather than allow this kind of embarrassment? As we're talking, it's not about their discovering. The money have been chopped, like somebody said. You know, so 257, like I said, it's just the tip of the iceberg. And the way corruption works is, if you do for 10 naira and you succeed, you'll be emboldened to do 15 naira, and then you move on to 15 naira, and then your greed would then move to the hundreds, to the thousands, to the millions and all that. So if we even understand what they had looked at for, they probably had just discovered just a fraction of this thing. So if we subject this more, we will find more. It is so because the budget is over 10,000 line items. 10,000. Who in this world has the energy to start, you know, looking at each of those line items? And so the opportunity for pardon is huge. And that is why subjecting them to this kind of scrutiny is very important, even before it gets to the assembly, you know. And so
but wouldn't it have taken the whole time? I mean, look at it. Probably that is one of the reasons why it took a while, you know, for them to even come up, you know, with this report. So is there a way of streamlining this budget? Because, you know, like you mentioned, it looks so bogus, and interrogating it, you know, is quite a very huge task. So is there a way of, you know, streamlining these budgets in a more simpler, you know, way and manner?
I don't know how that is going to look. What we are actually supposed to strengthen is the budget office. Should be strengthened to be able to do this kind of checks, and that is why we have the privilege of technology. You should be able to dictate replications, right? Even at the back of your fingers, you know, by just imputing parameters and search through those parameters to even bring out replications. Where there are no replications, you can even use certain parameters. For instance, so if you say you want to build classrooms, what they do is they can decide to replicate that classroom construction in 2 or 3 places within the budget. You could search up classrooms. And when it brings out all of the classrooms search for you, you then begin to look at the fine notes and ask questions. You want to build 4 classrooms here, given, taken. You also want to build this other 4, where is it? So if you say 4 classrooms in Zaria, and then you go to, you come again to another place, you say another 4 classrooms in, let's say, Congo. Whoever does a simple search knows that Congo is also in Zaria. You have just used one nomenclature to change, to make it look like there is a violation. Somebody should be asking those questions. A second eye should be merely looking at the quality, the sanctity of what is proposed.
Isn't it why we do budget defense, you know, at the National Assembly and all of that?
If the executive that have all the MDAs and everything that took some 6 months to prepare these templates, you know, are unable to clean up these things, it will be difficult for some 108 people in the National Assembly to really do a thorough job on this. And then you know how funny these things, budgets are provided, and even the civil society and the media don't get the complete template around these things. It's a struggle for them to even release this, because this is where the media would have been able to help. You know, if not directly at the point of presenting the budget, you can use the same templates to do monitoring and evaluation, to then begin to say, you provided for 12 classrooms in total, but I mean, on our inspection, we found only 4. Where are the other 8? And if they know that those kind of checks would regularly come forward, perhaps it will reduce the tendency to pad the budget to this extent.
Okay, well, now that, you know, the report is out, you know, what do you think the government can actually do about it? And are we likely to find such replications in the 2022 budget?
I can beat my chest and say yes, it will be in the 2022 budget. If we care to look, just use whatever template the ICPC had used to bring this out, to look deeply into the 2022. That's one. 2, the president was blowing hot. I hope it is not just for the sake of the cameras, you know, because until you begin to fish out people who are responsible for these things and try them and jail them, the people who come after would not learn anything. You know, the way we behave in this country is, if somebody is caught, they say, no, he's not smart enough. If he was smart, he wouldn't have been caught. Other people will come up with the impression that, no, it's because he ate alone. If he had shared the spoils among everybody, they would have covered it. You know, so, but now that this is in the open, we should be able to drill down to how those items fund their way into the budget and establish those things and try people. And they should be seen to be tried openly and jailed openly. And that's the only way we can foster not completely eradicate it, but at least reduce it to a barest minimum.
All right. Well, we'll have to end the discussion here. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for coming.
And having these thoughts with us. We've been speaking with Sunday Michael. He is the Deputy Business Editor, Daily Trust newspaper. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, let's take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we'll be taking a look at another discussion on the program, this time around talking about gender-based violence. Please stay with us.
We're revolting. But you know, both topics on gender-based violence. We're not sure which one is because yeah, that one is, the second one is HIV.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Rapper ba? Akwai rapper. It's still on, that one is the HIV and gender-based violence, you understand? That's the second discussion. The first discussion is for just gender-based violence, how it's linked, how it's connected. Do you get it? And then the first discussion is the curbing gender-based violence. I'm sure it's the rapper woman. Shehu, discussion 2 then. Yusuf! Is it rapper? Do you, is there? What do you call it? Yusuf! Discussion 2 ne? Kaji? Nature Yusuf, Shehu. Second discussion. Second discussion. Women, you know scripts and I. Women, let me see, let me check. Well, let me, okay. Women rights advancement and protection alternative.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices.
NLB.
Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
I don't know, maybe you talk to him. Yes, please. Yusuf! Why didn't they bring out chair?
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Who?
They said it's still showing. What's still showing? The TV is showing that you should shift back a bit. They said it's still showing. What is the reflection? Okay.
Buy what's the name of that?
A kuli. What? What? No, we love kuli. Yes. Yeah, munch it. Caprese, okay. I'll munch it for you.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story. Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Wasting time. Masifa, go. How it's connected to
Okay, so let's begin.
nothing around HIV. So we're basically talking about gender-based violence with you, and we're doing the same thing with two people. So we shouldn't ask you anything on HIV.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Yeah, so I'm threatening Mr. Precious. We just flash it. We can't see it. Wait. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. And right now, it's time for us to move into the first discussion, and it has to do with HIV/AIDS, today being World AIDS Day, and how it is connected to gender-based violence. Because whether you like it or not, there is a connection. Now, globally, 75% of new HIV infections are among adolescents aged 10 to 19, and Nigeria so far has 190,950 HIV/AIDS infections per year, with the second highest rate of new infection in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, to link this with gender-based violence, factors like, gender-based violence places women and adolescent girls at an increased risk of HIV infection, when it comes to some activities like rape, and other things that, has to do with how the men treat women. It is a major factor. And in the studio, we're joined by Damilola Idris, and she's the project officer, Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative, RAPA. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
All right, so let's move on to the first question that we have. Now, some institutions now link gender-based violence, you know, and HIV/AIDS. You know, what is the connection and why is it?
Like you said earlier, GBV, it's women being GBV basically. If we're looking at GBV as a whole, it's women being violated, harmful practices, and a whole lot of
sexual
abuse. It entails a whole lot. So there's a connection in the sense that if you're looking at rape, which is sexual violence, people can actually contact HIV through that via the perpetrators of rape. And looking at it, you would say, why will people actually be discriminated because of they have AIDS? This is something that people can actually manage and live with. It's just like someone having diabetics and you're living with it. It can be managed. There are drugs for managing these things. And you see a lot of people being discriminated because of that. Like there are cases, the organization I work with, RAPA, there are cases where we've had women that have HIV and maybe it was discovered while they were married. And some of these women, maybe the husband actually contacted it and brought it into the house and the wife contacted it.
All right, so tell us about RAPA and what you do.
In RAPA, basically RAPA means Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative. What we do in RAPA is we are strongly for women's rights. We protect women's rights. We help women, we enlighten women on their rights, help them understand that you have rights. You have rights to own properties. You have rights to living rights. To you being a woman as a whole, you just living your life.
All right, now, you know, you have other things aside, you know, rape, which is a means through which women, you know, contract HIV. FGM is also another key factor here, female genital mutilation. It's an ancient practice, but we find that even till date, these practices, you know, are still apparent in some villages and some local communities. Are we moving away from that? Do we have enough awareness, you know, for people to move away from those kind of, you know, harmful practices?
I would say a lot of people feel we that work in the development sector, we are just noisemakers. Even this whole 16 days of activism is all about GBV. And what's this GBV? We are looking at all forms of GBV, including the harmful practices. So when you look at, there are states that actually have been practicing this, even for, it's not just for young girls, they also practice this on even older women, as like maybe if some of them are in that widowhood stage where their husband just passed, so they see it as a way to actually help them to go through the whole widowhood thing and all of that. But see, advocacy has been going on for years, and trust me, there are lots of people that are getting to know about these things, that, oh, these things they are actually harmful. At the end of the day, some generations keep using razor blades and all sorts of sharp objects for years. Like, they don't change these sharp objects. And besides, a lot of NGOs go out sensitizing people on the needs to, on the harmful, on basically harms with these practices. That is not just about your culture, what you've actually held on to for years, but it's all about, are you healthy at the end of the day after you actually do this? Because a lot of people still, like you said, HIV at the end of the day, through sharing of blades and all sorts.
Okay, I actually read somewhere that victims of childhood sexual abuse are more likely to be HIV positive. How true is that?
Very true. Because, like we learned, HIV could be transferred from through sex. So it's very, very possible that a child could actually contact that. because there aren't children that are actually violated with objects. So it could be a metallic object, and who knows where that object is coming from. So
okay, now recently we saw a report by the United Nations about the number of, the rates of rape cases, and other forms of abuse, against women in the year 2020, that seem to have increased. About 11,200 cases of rape were reported, in 2020 alone. What does this say about where we're heading, and how did we even got to that point in the first place?
Okay, the thing is, how do we even ascertain that there was a rise? Because the reason why it looks like as if there was a rise, and of course, yes, there is a rise, and it's rising, is because, yes, it's been underreported for years. Last year, COVID, a lot of people did not have places to go. People just, because most times when people just go through these things, they will just have to call the police. So there was lots, like a lot of people were really aware, and people were able to report. And social media has a way of also helping people share their stories, share their experiences. So it was a way people could actually just report, tell people, oh, this is my neighbor did this to his daughter, my neighbor, something happened to so person in my locality, and all of that. So there is a rise, but there is a way it can be curbed. That's why there is so much awareness. That's why there's been a 30-year-long of celebration on basically, it's not just a celebration, it's just to also make people aware that these vices are in the society. We can all join hands together to curb this thing. Great. TV TrustTV, you are interviewing us. This is a way of creating awareness. This is campaign. This is you people actually helping us do our work, joining hands with us, collaborating with us to actually spread this word that these things exist. It doesn't have to happen to someone beside us or someone close to us before we actually know what to do and how to go about things. So there's just been this culture of silence, actually. People actually glorify the fact that they don't have to report these things. How will I look when I actually report that I've been raped? How will I look if I report that I've been sexually harassed? So if these things, thank God we have media organizations partnering with us and helping us spread the word. If these things if there is noise from every corner, these things will be curbed. And if people actually frown at these things, because you see people actually are aware that their neighbor is actually abusing his wife, nobody will report. Everybody will just keep quiet, because we have this thing where we just feel, oh, we don't have to report. If we report, it's none of my business. But it concerns everybody. Exactly,
which is why I'm going to ask, we have this mentality that, well, it's a husband and wife affair. You hear cases of violence, next door, and then you don't even know what to do. So what are people expected to do in such scenarios where you see cases of violence, against women?
In cases where you see violence against women, there's so much awareness about places you can do actually report. Like in RAPA, we actually advise victims to first of all report to the police, because if it's a domestic violence issue, if it's a physical violence issue, we just ask you to report first of all to the police. Most of everything we do is the police, because we don't prosecute. We actually just assist to get
for the third party. Now I'm talking about the third party, not the victim, not the person involved. Someone who is not directly involved in
someone that probably just heard. Okay. And basically what we actually advise people like that to do is we advise them to just reach out to an organization that handles cases as such. There is NAPTIP. NAPTIP is a federal government institution that handles cases as like this. We have a lot of NGOs that deal with issues on violence. Any sort of violence. We have NGOs that are specifically for such.
Well, that's more on, like, let me paint a picture here.
Okay.
You are in your house, okay, and you heard noise.
Okay.
you know, someone is beating his wife and all of that. And it's a very, I would say, worrisome noise you are hearing. Someone is in danger.
Yeah.
And if nothing is done, that person could, only God knows what will happen, maybe even be killed, you know, in the process. So how do you respond? Like, urgently. There is an emergency here. So you may not have the time to go to NAPTIP or to go to this or to do that. How do you intervene?
That's why I said the first point of contact is the police. Because what if you go there and something drops on your head? There is a what if. But if you can actually be the first responder by going there to intervene, by going there to calm the situation down, it's perfect. You can go there, calm the situation down. Or better still, you can call the police. Because the police is actually the agency that is given the power by the law to actually restore order in the society. So the police should actually be the first responder. But you can actually be the first responder as a neighbor by just calming the situation down and trying to intervene by settling whatever it is and making sure the person that is being hurt or that is at harm's way is taken out of that.
Okay, we know for a fact that sometimes it takes, you know, authorities a while to, you know, respond. So what of, and we've heard stories of a lot of women who have actually died due to, you know, gender-based violence. So what happens, you know, in such cases? And then probably if, as a neighbor, you try to, you know, intervene in the situation and nothing works out, because you actually have cases where even the person being abused will tell you to stay out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's also another
which you cannot even force. Even we that we deal with, we work with a lot of women that have been abused. You can't force someone that is abused to actually seek for justice. But as a state, Nigeria has the right, and the law has the right to actually prosecute the person that is beating you, because the person that is beating you or causing harm to you is actually, I mean, the state. That's how it's supposed to be. But a lot of times people actually see it as it's just the family. It's the state, because the person that is actually harming the other person is a threat to the state. Because if he can beat you, that means he can go on the street and beat everybody on the street.
So talking about the
doesn't the abused need to press charges first?
The abused needs to press charges, but there are cases where the abused never see a reason to press charges.
So talking about pressing charges, talking about the laws, talking about the state and all of that. Yes, we have what is ideal and what should be on one hand. But again, we have also the reality, which is shaped, you know, sometimes by our culture, you know, our values and our, you know, thinking, you know, the society generally, you know, and all of that. So looking at laws, have we domesticated enough laws to curb, you know, the rising cases of gender-based violence in our country as we have it now?
We have the VAP Act. We have a lot of acts, but the VAP Act is the main act that it was passed in 2015. We still have states that have not domesticated the VAP Act, which is sad, because the VAP Act doesn't, a lot of people still feel the VAP Act is just about protecting women. It protects men too. It's because it's just about helping you, like it's just about protecting your dignity as a human being. That's what the VAP Act is there for. So we have acts, we have the Constitution, we have Child Rights Act to protect children and all of that. We have a lot of these acts.
What about men? Because some men, you know, are abused by women as well. And I'm speaking on behalf of, you know, people like...
No, you're not speaking.
Okay, okay.
You're not speaking
on behalf of men, on behalf of men in general.
That's why I said the VAP Act actually covers men too. But people actually feel the VAP Act is for women alone. But the VAP Act equally protects men too, because it has every part, every section in the VAP Act equally speaks to men too. Speaks to issues of abuse too to men. because men are being abused. But little, it's underreported, because there's still this culture of silence too, even with men, because a lot of men are ashamed to even speak out that, oh, my wife is beating me, or I'm going through emotional abuse and all of that.
How does that even sound?
It's worse with them then. It's worse with
How
them.
does that
Yes,
even sound?
it is worse actually,
Because
because trust me, I'm sure there are men that actually
don't believe in hitting women back, and you know, and so when the woman does the hitting, you know, they don't know how to handle it, and they just, you know,
they just stay in silence. And
So there's a lot of psychology around this.
Yeah.
You know, like what you just said now. Maybe the men feel like, oh, okay, it's a sign of me showing love and care.
Yeah.
And for the women as well, there's this thinking that, oh, okay, well, he beats me, it's my husband. It's my own way of showing submission and all of that. How do we change that narrative?
That's why we have to keep talking. Talk doesn't stop. We have to keep talking. We have to keep enlightening people, because education is not a one-time thing. Education is something that it keeps going on. Because a lot of us, okay, we probably graduated from primary school, secondary school, university. You are working somewhere. On the job, you are learning. So learning is something that it continues. So when I see people that actually frown at the fact that we actually do a lot of campaigns every year to actually educate people, campaign is something that we are just doing to educate people, tell people, oh, these things, this is how to go about this thing. There are people that will say, oh, I did not know it was a problem for me to just keep quiet. Do you know the VAP Act equally can prosecute, like there is a section in the VAP Act that equally speaks to people that actually watch that rape, how do you put it? That are rape apologists. The VAP Act equally, yes, the VAP Act equally speaks.
Make excuses.
Yes,
the
VAP Act equally looks at addresses people that are actually just saying they saw the act. They probably did not participate in it, but they saw it, but they just ignored it. Oh, it's not our problem. Let's just go our way. So education is something that we just need to keep doing. Even the government itself needs to keep hearing these things. Let's see the need to domesticate the VAP Act in states. Let all the states in Nigeria domesticate this act. Let it be something that we see as a working document, as not just a document, as something that binds us, as something that protects us. We shouldn't wait till it's someone close to us that is affected before we know we should put in so much energy to get these things.
Okay. Now, do you see, you know, a correlation between this other controversial issue about early marriage, you know, for women, and this issue of gender-based violence and all of that? How does it, you know, correlate here?
There is a correlation in the sense that you have people, like, okay, the Child Rights Act actually speaks to the fact that anybody that is under the age of 18, because when you're under the age of 18, you're a minor. You're not meant to even have anything to do with marriage. You're not meant to have anything to do with sexual relationships. But you still have some parts of the country that believe it's cultural for young girls to actually be married. So you have to, we still have all of that going on, debates. When is a girl seen as mature? Is it before she's 18? Is it when she's 18? And all of that. But legally, 18 is actually meant to be the age where a girl should be married and all. So you have issues of some young girls actually getting married or being betrothed and stuff. And some of them at the end of the day have fistula. They contact a lot of things because they are not even ready for it. It's still a form of abuse in itself. Because why will a girl even be used to trade? Like, there are some men that they probably have debts to cover. Some families, they have debts to cover, so they use their daughters. They trade their daughters. That's a form of violence.
Okay. All right. So now, in your time working with a rapper, have you ever come in contact with a GBV victim who is HIV positive?
I've never come across any.
Okay.
Because also, there's a place of I don't know how to put it. There's a place of anonymity because you're trying to protect details. You don't want people to actually, because trust me, there's still this stigma when you find out that somebody has HIV. There are still people that will be like, oh, I shouldn't have touched her. I shouldn't. So we don't really, it's something secret because it's our clients.
Okay.
We don't.
All right. All right then. Well, thank you so much. We have to end the discussion here. We happy to have you on the show. Hopefully you join us again another time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We've been speaking with Damilola Idris. She is a program officer, Women Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative, giving us perspectives around gender-based violence. Thank you so much. We'll go on a short break now, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other dimensions to our conversation today. Please stay with us.
Don't forget the mic out the door. Yes, all right.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
My leg is flying. Gaskiya. That one, we're just managing to fetch it. Please don't forget discussion 1, go. No, no, it's even good because we didn't really talk about this. Just the info. Something else. Koji Amatsu did the same thing on headlines. They did the same thing on headlines. And then if you look at, I have to story. I don't even know. I don't even understand. Yesterday I had
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Sure, no. Because Mr. Precious came here, said I should start with 4.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
It wasn't so.
We have another.
I thought it was just me. From AS for the December, I thought it was just me. I thought it was just me. I told Madam yesterday. Good morning, Ma. You're welcome. Hi, thank you. Let's see you too, Ma. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the TrustTV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search TrustTV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. TrustTV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, gender-based violence is any act in which a person is seen, assaulted, coerced, or generally injured by violence, especially targeted at a specific sex or gender. Gender-based violence is arguably one of the most prevalent human rights violations in the world and is currently a shadow pandemic, resulting in life-threatening consequences on women and girls, negatively impacting their life opportunities. This human rights violation is firmly rooted in gender inequality experienced by women globally. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by GBV. In 2005, UNHDI report observed that the persistent poverty situation in developing societies like Nigeria is a consequence of continued neglect and discrimination against the female population. Now, we have in the studio NLB Country Director, Action Aid Nigeria, to give us perspectives on this story. Well, thank you. It's good to have you join us.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
Okay, so why is violence against women increasing on a daily basis?
Well, some of the things that are coming up has been there, and that's why the beginning of the 16 days of activism, was muted by, the structures that have established it and encouraged by the United Nations over the years, and it was started like 30 years ago. That's 1991. And that is for the world to focus on gender-based violence, thinking that 30 years down the line, there should have been some things, a raising of awareness, and the level of impunity would have reduced, but it's not abating. I would say it's not abating, though a lot of work has been done. More than 6,000 organizations over the years have engaged. About 187 countries have been engaged, in terms of raising awareness against gender-based violence. And to say then COVID-19 came, that wasn't the scenario, because there were a lot of things, like everybody now had to stay at home. You look at your neighbors, because the perpetrators are not usually far away. Many of the times it's people from inside, because you have the sexual assault and also, in terms of battery, serious violence against women and girls. That increased, and but also I think for Nigeria, a lot of things have been done. The issue of the prohibitions, the act that has been established, and we raised a big alert last year. And the governors, you know, the federal government came up with very strong warnings, and also the law came down. Governors were able to adopt, you know, and we had you know, the support for the governors' wives, you know, association and all. So there has been a lot of activities that is raising a lot of awareness, and the laws now is not is harder. And several laws like Kaduna State made even their own stiffer, you know, against, but it's not enough to have a law, and people are aware of the law. Sensitization towards everybody knowing that if you have this done, this is how you're going to be punished. And then the culture of silence. You know, it is said that 1 in every 3 women around the world between the ages of 15, you know, and above have had either a sexual assault or experienced violence in different forms. You know, and it is not located at how young you are or how old you are. And the effects are the same. You know, the bitterness and all of that. And so, you know, it's a lot of work to be done. So much to be done in terms of awareness raising, awareness creation, and I'm happy that you have made this session, you know, targeting this morning.
All right, now the numbers that we have seen, like in 2020, more than 11,000 reported cases of rape in Nigeria. Is that a true reflection of what exactly the status is, or is it just an increase in the number of reported cases?
It I think the media, it has been unprecedented in terms of reportage. The increased awareness, also I'm happy that we have the partnership with the media. Media is doing a great job in terms of raising the consciousness of people. The culture of silence has made it in a way that many people, many families are not reporting. When a child is raped, for example, you know, they don't want a smear on the stigma for their family and so on, and so they try to cover it up. But the life of that girl is not covered up because they have destroyed her life. And now you are having the increase for Nigeria is even worse because women are being used as a weapon of war, both by the insurgents and also you have the bandits. Women are used as a weapon of war. And they're used as weapons many of the times that they kidnap the girls, and women are raped. And the number of them, like when they kidnapped hundreds of girls the other time, many of them came back with pregnancy. So many lives of our generations have been destroyed. And when you destroy the life of a woman, it's for generations. Okay. What does she become?
There's also the issue of, you know, domesticating, you know, these laws, you know, against gender-based violence. How far have we gone with that? And beyond the laws, in terms of prosecuting people, are we equipped enough? Are we ready enough to deal with these issues?
I think about in terms of, you know, getting the laws, you know, just getting justice. There has been an increase of about 22%, you know, in terms of getting judgment. Before now, you hardly get them. Over the years, you know, it got into the government of Nigeria establishing, or let me say the Nigerian police force, establishing the gender desks. You know, many of these desks are established, but they're not funded. In terms of you going out, even before then, I think there is a lot of improvement. Before then, you hardly have, you know, when you take any case of rape to the police, they will tell you to go and settle it at home. And again, the girl is left behind by the society that brings her up. You know, because they will come against you. We have a case recently, you know, from one of our, because actually it is in 24, you know, states across the country. And where we are working, you know, one of the girls was raped, and a little girl was raped. And then a lady, you know, a journalist was bold enough to take some of the, because they took her to the hospital, to the general hospital where they have appointed, you know, the government, because one of the nasty things is that when somebody is raped, you need evidence. And that is the ugly part. You have to go and subject yourself, open the girl up to get evidence. And then we have government designated hospitals. And so they got there and they said they were not handling it. They rejected it. You know, they said they were not handling it. And then they took them to the private hospital. Of course, the parents were worried. They wanted treatment for their child because you need immediate treatment in order to avoid, you know, infection and so many things that the girl might be subjected to. And so they took her to the hospital, but the journalists, you know, tried to take that evidence so that, you know, it can later be used. The whole community came around and said he must delete the evidence from that phone. If not, they were going to seize the phone and smash it. They watched the person deleting the evidence and all of that. We're still trying to sort that out. The government, you know, the people says they must knock it out. And so the society that should protect the girl child, it's like, what is happening to our society? The moral laxity and the fact that the dignity of the girl child that used to be worshipped, you know, that they prepare the girl child until the day of your wedding. What has happened to Africa? What has happened to Nigeria? It's so easy to lose that dignity. And the dignity, you know, the form, so many girls will require psychosocial support. Even with that, it's very difficult to get over it. You have some girls that many years ago, they have been raped. They can't get over it. And so this is the world that we have.
Okay, you talked about institutions like the police, you know, relaxing on their duties. What about other institutions like the National Human Rights and the courts? Would you say they're living up to their responsibility?
Yeah, I can say there was a question that you brought out about how far have they been able to, you know, how far have they been able to get justice or how? I think in prosecution, you know, the government has been, they are doing a lot. We are now following up, and that's why there is a multitude of, you know, women organizations from all over. We have the Federation of International Women Lawyers. We have the, you know, Association of Women Lawyers across Africa and within the Nigerian branch. You know, there's so many organizations that are working on. ActionAid is currently, you know, supporting about 124, you know, women-led organizations on women's voices in leadership, and also looking at gender-based violence. So there is a lot. And so many other organizations, MacArthur Foundation, you know, FCDO, you have Global Affairs Canada, you have Ford Foundation, you know, so many other organizations, the UN Women, and the whole lot of women-led organizations, and not some are not women-led, that are working, you know, assiduously to see that all the laws that have been, you know, enveloped, the acts that have been passed, are implemented. So we're working and trying to see. The law itself, the court, so many cases are in court. In Nigeria, the judiciary need to sit up. They need to sit up because that is supposed to be the place where you get your justice. And then you get to that level and the cases may be detained. For the young girl, most of the time you find out that the rape cases or the sexual assault are against the very poor. They are not able to, and the C says you have to, such cases you need to bring it to the capital where it is reported, you know, and so going and coming, the affordability or the transport and all of that. When they come today, you delay the case, another day they delay, you know, more than 100 million Nigerians are living below the poverty line. So how do you get the parents to also bring in up, you know, how do they afford that? And so there's so many limitations to getting, you know, the necessary things, and also to get the right prosecution or to get right justice, you know, for the girl. You know, so the court is involved. There are other aspects. Ministry of Women Affairs, you know, and social, you know, okay, it used to be with social development. Now it makes you know, a bit of I won't say nonsense. It makes a bit of. It takes a lot of powers from Ministry of Women Affairs as well. That's an aspect, you know, but under the leadership of the current minister, you know, Dame Pauline Talent, you know, doing a wonderful work in terms of when things are reported, they follow up, you know. She is galvanizing a multitude of all the organizations in Nigeria to support the girl child. And she doesn't sleep when she hears a case of a girl child. But it's in a multitude. Now we are having bandits in different places, in one of the environment like in Zamfara. You know, they come out of the bush and they take women into their, you know, take some women. After raping them, maybe keeping them for about a week, they come back and leave those ones and take another batch because the men have run away. And there is so much that is going on, the kind of rot that is going on in this country. And that's a destruction that will stand for a very long time.
All right. Earlier you painted a picture and gave an instance of a lady who, you know, there was the society, or I would say the community where she lived in, do not seem to own this, you know, fight against gender-based violence by even attempting to, you know, attack a journalist who is trying to preserve evidence, you know, in that case. What are the challenges that we have in terms of, you know, making people in communities to own this fight, to see it as a fight that they need to fight? We talk about some states that are yet to domesticate, you know, the laws and all of that. Why are we not seeing the, you know, the taking over of this by communities?
The challenges are enormous because of the patriarchal nature of our society. The issue of stigmatization is quite major. When you hear that a girl is raped, you know, families are covering it up because they know. I think our culture understands that normally in the African culture, you are supposed to be well brought up and you go to your husband's house. You get married as a virgin, you know. And so the dignity of that girl child is like holistic. And we are finding out now. So when your girl, you know, when you find out that your girl is raped, it's better to cover it so that she can get married. Maybe it's sorted out when she gets married and then the husband finds out that she's no longer, you know, a virgin, then they can sort themselves out. But many parents up to this moment are not willing to do that. There are some homes as well that I remember that one of the cases we had, which is in Abuja here, was that the girl was repeatedly being raped, and the woman of the house, a maid, the woman of the house did not know. But when a neighbor, you know, got worried because he was seeing this, he said, let me go and tell this woman, look, this is what happens when you are not at home. And the woman just decided to send the girl home and say she has come to terminate her marriage. Again, that is looked at from several points. The empowerment of the girl child. The empowerment of the girl child, of the woman herself. That when she is not educated, there are so many decisions that she is not able to take. Some of the women are scared of losing their marriages because when they lose their marriages, you know, who is going to provide for them? Because what becomes of a woman when you know that your husband, the housemaid, the girl that you're supposed to protect, has been divorced by your husband, and you're still sitting in that house? Some of them, it's not even the maid, it's the children, because there's a lot of incest that is being committed. And then you are still staying in that house. I remember, you know, it happened in a place, you know, because I've really traveled and I've worked in different parts of Africa. In a place it happened, the daughter, you know, was not being raped again because it's like an accepted norm. And one of the sisters reported to the mother. The mother said it's not true. When they now prepared and made sure, you know, she caught them red-handed. The relatives of the man came and sent her out. And the girl still lives with the father. And so you find things that are going wrong, but that girl, you know, she's even begging, the lady is begging to come back and all of that. So the education of the woman is very, very important. If you and I, you know, because we're educated, you can take those decisions, because leaving the house is like, call a real estate person and say, can you get me a house? And you move your things and you're gone, because you can afford to pay. There are many women who cannot take those decisions. And so that is still on ground. But a lot of awareness is being created. It's just that we need to involve the government officials. Like, if there is a civic education, there is a National Orientation Agency. You talked about the National Human Rights Commission. There was one, we collaborate with them in all of the things that we're doing. You know, we do a lot of collaborations. There was a woman who was being battered, seriously battered, in one of the states I don't want to mention, and we had to collaborate with the National Human Rights Commission. We were able to rescue that lady. We've rescued a number of ladies. We have some shelters as well. Because again, if you want to take the woman, you know, another thing is, where will I go? You know, and many women have lost their lives because of that. Okay, talking about the number of women, in Nigeria, do we have quantitative data on gender-based violence? If no, how can we, you know, effectively address this issue without any data? There's a lot of data gathering that was happening. We tried to, when we had the outcry of during the lockdown, you know, we did a lot of data, we did some data collection, and we found out that within the first few months, you know, the first two months of the lockdown, we had about 463 cases of rape and sexual assault, and also gender-based violence. So the issues of data depends on who is willing to own up, because you can have 1 in 3 women, you know, experiencing this, but you also have 1 in 10 that may likely report. So the issue is asking many people to own up. I think there is a lot more people coming out now. I remember we had a workshop on gender-based violence, and a lady came out for the first time. She said, I'm saying this for the first time. I was raped at the university, you know, and we never, you know, she wasn't able to. She said, I tried fighting. The guy took her, locked her up. He says it's like giving a lift from one side of the campus to another, and took her there and said, let's brush this house, you know, something. She said, I fought from that night until about 4:30 a.m. when my strength gave up. And those are some of the things that, you know, so reporting, the woman is hurting. So it's important, there's a lot of psychosocial support that is required, you know, to rescue the person.
Just before we round up, I just want to drop this. Most times the cases are reported long after the actual act has happened, and so it becomes very difficult to prosecute those issues. Do we need some kind of special training, maybe our prosecutors now, you know, with respect to the issues of rape, and how to ensure that evidences are not compromised, you know, before you know, judgments are gotten?
I think the agony of a woman when you're raped and then you have to, you know, you need to, treatment needs to happen, or you need to go to the hospital, you need to get evidence. I think the world is experiencing many new things. We are still exploring new ways, and I think both the UN and the other organizations are trying to see what else is possible. Because it shouldn't just be, you know, that evidence, you know, of saying you must go, because within 24 hours, if you are not able to get evidence, and where hospitals are very far away, most likely that the evidence will be washed. And then you have, you know, even within the health sector, you are having these issues of connivance. You know, there's a lot that is being done, but we hope that the law will be made simpler, that there can be closer access. For example, that if something happens in the local community, you don't have to travel all the way to the state headquarters or to the local government headquarters before you can really get access. The primary healthcare development agencies need to maybe empower the primary healthcare facilities to be able to take those evidence and to increase that environment. A lot of people need to be aware that perpetrators, if you don't catch them, it will continue.
Definitely.
So we are working together, and we continue to work with both government and non-governmental organizations. But again, election is also coming. I'm also the convener for Civil Society Situation Room on elections. And so it's important to look at violence during elections. You know, many women have suffered violence in that environment, and we hope that this, you know, 2023 will be violence-free as well.
All right. All right, thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your thoughts with us. We look forward to having you again on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, we've been speaking with NLB, Country Director, Action Aid Nigeria, giving us perspectives on gender-based violence in Nigeria and the world over. Well, we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll wrap up the show. Please stay with us.
Thank you very much, man. That was really insightful. Thank you very much, man. Oh, thank you, ma'am. Well, if you ask me, it has been a really, really insightful, program today. I learned a lot about gender-based violence, a lot about HIV/AIDS, and I just hope that, these kind of vices, is put to an end very, very soon, because groups that actually suffer more from these vices are women and children.
And it's very important that as a society, as a people, we own this fight. It's not a fight for one person. It's not a fight for NGOs. It's a fight for every Nigerian. It's a fight for every individual. As a man, you definitely must have either a mother, a sister, a wife,
yes, as a woman, silence is not the answer. Once you're being violated, just come out and speak to someone. Speak to someone, because the perpetrators also need to be dealt with.
Very, very important.
And I actually wish there's stiffer penalties for, people who actually perpetrate such acts.
Well,
honestly.
Guess what? Someone is proposing castration for men.
That's not totally a bad idea.
I mean, that's a discussion for another
day.
But I mean, that's what we know so far. Thank you so much for watching the show today. Hopefully you join us again tomorrow for another time on the program. My name is Ayuba.
And I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Have a wonderful day. And then